circuit called the A1 ring, and Derek, effectively it's on top of the former Grand Prix track.
That was known as the Österreich ring and a favorite for so many Grand Prix drivers. And this is also in a gorgeous part of Austria. Steep valleys and green pastures and villages with those typical alpine roofs extending downwards to provide winter shelter. Skiing in the winter and excellent walking in the summer mean many delightful little hotels where the welcome is warm and the rural hospitality is generous.
Well, Derek, this new track, the A1 ring, is about 137 miles southwest of the beautiful capital city of Vienna, and this has meant a long haul across Europe for those GT teams and their long-suffering truck drivers.
Now, this new racetrack uses much of the infrastructure of the former Österreich ring, which hosted a Grand Prix for the last time in 1987. It's now slower, though, shorter, much safer. Niki Lauda, famous name to come from Austria. Now, of course, Gerhard Berger, famous in Grand Prix racing. But the new rising star of Austria is Alexander Wurz. We asked Alex what the new circuit means to Austrian motorsports.
Yeah, it's great, you know, because this is a circuit, it's built, that Formula 1 is coming back, all the other big events like the GT racing, Motorbike World Championship, Superbike World Championship is coming back to Austria, and for me it's an honor to coming back on this such a new and nice circuit.
Do you have any recollections of the old Österreich ring here at this site?
Yeah, the old circuit was my favorite circuit, to be honest, but it was too dangerous. It was a very fast circuit, but no runoffs, no gravel beds, so it was really too dangerous for such fast cars, also Formula 1 cars or the motorbikes. And they built this circuit now, which is for sure one of the safest one in the whole world.
Well, many of the teams have tested here in recent weeks, and they all feel that it's very tight with few passing zones. But nonetheless, given the highly competitive nature of this series, with so many well-prepared teams with a chance of winning every race, there was considerable uncertainty before Saturday's qualifying session as to who would emerge on top.
And grid position will be important. Now, there's some other big news and lots of changes here with some of these teams, because there have been driver changes aplenty after the disastrous first lap car wreckage at Spa. The Gulf team Davidoff were resting Jean-Marc Gounon. He's been replaced by Englishman and Japanese resident Jeff Lees, who was due to drive for Gulf and Suzuka. This has meant a lot of shuffling around the Gulf McLaren. But Lee is due to share the car with Gilbert Scott and Anders Olofsson. However, Michael Caine had an interesting view.
Well, it's not quite all change, there is a small change, but obviously after Spa, where we lost 3 cars all in one accident, we had a situation where there were quite a lot of strong feelings moving about between all the people that have invested in the team and so on. So I thought the best thing was that we come to Austria and just try and calm everything down. We also took the opportunity to give Jeff Lees some extra mileage in the car because we had already decided to run him at Suzuka. So really just with the aim of keeping everything calm, getting it all back on track for Suzuka, where we hope to do very well.
Now, for some reason, not fully explained yet, Hans Stuck did not appear to race in his adopted country, and so the diminutive Scottish driver Alan McNish, a contracted Porsche test driver, got his big chance in a Works 911 GT1 alongside Dalmas and Wallach. He was happy.
Well, I've been testing for them since earlier on in the year, and Hans Stuck wasn't going to be racing in this event, so I was drafted in to replace him for this one, and partnering Yannick Dalmas.
And how's the car feel around this new A1 ring?
It's my first time here, and it's taken a little time to get used to it. The corners aren't that difficult, but there are a few adverse camber ones. But the car's going pretty well. It was pretty quick in testing, and they got a good setup and balance, and we've been able to continue that work on through the qualifying.
So as second qualifying began, the competition was to unseat Mercedes from the top of the timesheets. The session started in a light rain and higher temperatures, and although the sun did come out, it was a long time before the lap times began to approach those of the morning session.
However, the man on the pole, to the delight of Mercedes-Benz, was Alessandro Nannini.
It's going well. The balance was okay of the car, and good laps. It's okay.
Very good laps. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
But Bernd Schneider said that he was so delighted with his new baby girl Lisa Marie, born this week, that he was prepared to let Sandro have the pole. Gary Lee, Derek Daly, and Speed Vision at the A1 ring here in Austria. Race day dawned bright, sunny, and warm with a magnificent backdrop of the Austrian mountains. The teams made their final preparations with the usual Sunday morning warm-up. What is involved in this half-hour session? Well, we asked the man who has made his mark on every racetrack in the series, J.J. Leto.
I mean, for the warm-up, we just scrap the tires and we check that the car is okay. Both drivers are doing a few laps, you know, just to warm themselves up. And, you know, really, it's up to Friday and Saturday to sort out the car, you know. I mean, we have a little bit more. We have full tanks now for the warm-up, of course. And but that shouldn't make that much difference. I mean, basically, the only thing what we are aiming today is just to have a good, reliable car and get a lot of sunshine and hot weather.
Well, when the track was quiet, we jumped on board the Helmut Reese and the GT2 Porsche to have a look from the driver's eye view.
Coming out of the pits, 3, 4, 5, 6 gear, 5th, 6th gear. And now we are coming to a hairpin, which has to be done in 2nd gear. There's a little bumpy here. Accelerating, so you have to be careful, especially in wet. The track is brand new, so the tarmac it's quite slippery compared to other tracks, as you will see. This corner is called Niki Lauda's corner. This is done in 4th gear, so I'm braking and let the car slide out. This is a mobile corner, which we do in 4th gear over the curbs. This is the last corner of the lap in 3rd gear. And this is start and finish line. You have to brake at 150 meters.
A racetrack that barely resembles the great Österreich ring.
Speed Vision happy to be with you for this FIA GT Championship event from the new A1 ring here in Austria. And all of a sudden it is hot, it is sunny, it is humid. And Derek, the track temperature is about 135 degrees. That will certainly affect the handling on these race cars.
And full of 36 of the most expensive and colorful racing cars in the world today, and 3 Mercedes-Benz in the top 3, and then our championship contender Leto and Steve Soper. Teammates in 7th, Cox and Ravaglia, Mauro Baldi and Emmanuel Collard. In the top 8, and here's the GT2 grid.
Well, the top 4 with the 2 Vipers split by the Marcos and the Root Porsche. As you see, it is a very, very warm, sunny day, and it's going to get very hot in those enclosed cockpits. This track, though, is not, it's a tight track, but not as fast and perhaps not as taxing as the old circuit.
No, all completely rebuilt, new gravel traps, new tarmac macadam. We heard Helmut Reese tell us that earlier on, but the Mercedes-Benz take advantage now of this slow warm-up lap to warm the tires. Nannini out in front on his very first pole position for Mercedes-Benz. They are the dominant team in this FIA GT Championship. We'll be back. We are back on board with Pierre-Henri Raffinel, one of the Gulf McLarens. He is the new teammate in Jeff Lee's, and here is the run uphill to the first corner. Gets tight, the concrete wall and guardrail is on the right-hand side, and Raffinel slides down the inside. There is dust and dirt beginning to fly. 36 racing cars funnel down into this tight 2nd gear right-hander.
You have to be impressed with the start. We saw a huge crash in that first turn with the Formula 3000 event. These much larger cars all made it through.
Mercedes leads. This is Bernd Schneider, I believe, grabs the lead from the top. That is Nannini, our pole sitter, now running in 2nd place. The 3rd Mercedes car. All the silver cars are in line before we get to the McLarens.
So Bernd Schneider, Alexander Wirtz, his team driver, taking the lead from the outside pole position.
On board again, Pierre-Henri Raffinel. That is one of the 911. Smooth racetrack here at the A1 ring. We're going to go on board here, so let's just listen. Central seat position on these cars. Sequential gearbox. It's unusual here in the McLaren because all the forward gears are forward on the gear shift. Most unusual, backwards towards most cars. Here to hit the ground, hit straight. He's looking over his shoulder at the rear view mirror, so somebody's obviously in attack mode that he's being careful of. There is that somebody. Steve
Soper was the one that got by. He was watching Soper in the BMW.
That's one of the Schnitzer cars. Schnitzer, of course, runs two FIA-sponsored McLaren BMW F1 cars.
They're leading the point standings right now with J.J. Leto and Steve Soper.
J.J. Leto, pretty much the star of the season so far, when these silver Mercedes cars were not that well developed. Now they are beginning to come on strong. They have speed, they have reliability, although they have suffered some gearbox troubles. But Bernd Schneider now seems to have the bit between his teeth, and he will be the biggest challenge to J.J. Leto to try, when they try and win this championship.
And of course, we will see Bernd Schneider and these drivers later this season in the States. They'll be racing at both Sebring and Laguna Seca.
And Bernd Schneider did confirm to me himself in person that these cars will come. There was some doubt as to whether the factory cars will make the trek to America, but they will be supporting the professional sports car series at Laguna Seca and Sebring. And if you can get there, it will be well worth the visit.
And it's no secret that Mercedes would like to have Bernd Schneider in open cockpit competition in the States.
Bernd Schneider himself has a personal desire to jump into an Indy car. He is a strongly supported by Mercedes-Benz. They want to bring him to the States to view what IndyCar racing is all about.
We have to be politically correct, though, and say a kart car as opposed to an Indy car.
Well, a kart Indy car. I think we know what that means. As opposed to an Indy type or Indianapolis style car.
Or an IRL car.
Or a champ car. Meanwhile, you see the three silver Mercedes-Benz continue to run at the front. McLaren is in fourth place, and then the two factory Porsches, who are no longer contenders for the lead here. And now the
Collard in the Marlboro Porsche.
Privately run car, mixing it up between the two factory entries.
So you say that this racetrack in no way represents the character of the old racetrack. The drivers, I think, to the man, consider this a much safer racetrack, but it just does not have the character nor the speed.
It is safer, it is slower, it is less interesting, particularly when the Österreich wing was so daunting, so fast, so spectacular. But look at Andy Wallace here being pretty spectacular. That's the Panos car, begins to put the squeeze on one of the Lotus cars, but meanwhile Bernd Schneider has nothing but clear road as he goes uphill to the first corner. This first corner, the braking zone, in the old days you didn't brake, you went through a very fast right-hander. That was where Mark Donoghue had his tire explode. That was where he left the racetrack. And that essentially is where Mark Donoghue lost his life.
There's a Yannick Thomas in the pit lane in the Porsche 911. A non-scheduled stop, or is it? Yeah, they're going to make a driver change.
No,
there's a problem
no
with the
driver
seat.
change. Alan McNish is teamed with Yannick Dalmas here. Yannick Dalmas, of course, one of the winners, two-time winner at the Le Mans 24-hour race, and a seat, something as stupid as a seat, causes him to make an unscheduled pit stop. Not good for the factory Porsche team.
There is the leader in GT2. That is the Dodge Viper.
Olivier Beretta behind the wheel. Frenchman has driven this Viper now quite a few times. The Viper, of course, was in GT1 last year. That was for testing purposes. Now it's in the correct category of GT2. Has won the GT2 category in the past. So Beretta.
There is your overall leader, Derek, Bernd Schneider, but he continues to slice and dice his way through traffic. Hasn't taken him long to catch the back of the pack.
And there are many back markers here. You can see Norbert Haug from Mercedes-Benz, arms folded, blue shirt, looking up at the TV monitor. Norbert Haug, of course, the man responsible for pushing the button here to make this GT championship happen for Mercedes-Benz. But this has not looked good here.
A car on fire. Hesmans runs across the track to safety. He is okay, but they'll have to knock this fire down.
Serious fuel fire. Gary Ailes alights from the McLaren BMW. That needs to get away, but that Lotus is in all sorts of trouble here. That is clearly a fuel fire, probably being fed by electric fuel pumps, and that car is destroyed. And the whole thing goes up. Tank explodes. Say bye-bye. That car is completely destroyed, and they argue among themselves as to whose fault it was. At this stage, it doesn't matter. Somebody is going to have to write a big check to replace that Lotus.
Let's take a look at what happened. Ailes spins first, Gary, and then he gets tagged.
So the Lotus of Hasemans was an innocent victim here, and obviously the fuel tank was ruptured, and that car will be completely destroyed in an incident that was really not his fault.
Well, you can see the damage to that race car. Write that off, take out your checkbook, and issue a check for a new one. So we're full course yellow, the safety car on the track. We'll take this break and come back with the restart here in Austria. We remain under a full course yellow here at the A1 ring. Let's talk to both drivers involved in that crash.
All safe?
Yeah, no problem.
What happened?
He just spun, and then he was out of the track, and he came back on the track just as I arrived. So I tried to go to the right, but he came so fast back on the track, and then he just hit me completely in the side.
Yeah, I mean, John must have missed a gear coming out of here or something. He was very slow, so I was on the outside going into this first corner. He just kept going, and he braked very late, so I gave him room. I didn't turn in on him. I gave him room. As he went through the corner, he just hit me. And pushed me onto the curb and spun me. Then a Lotus hit me. It's a shame, but what can you say? It's finished now.
It looked very dramatic, but you're okay?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, but the car is not good. In fact, both of those cars are well destroyed, so Gary Ailes can go away and take an early shower. Now the safety car continues to circulate in front of this field. Of course, the safety car is a Mercedes-Benz. What else should lead a Mercedes dominated race here?
This bunches the field up. Of course, Bernd Schneider enjoying a large lead before that yellow came out. One of the Panos entries now in the pit area.
Another development program here. The Reynard designed and built car, rear seat, rear driver, front engine sports car. Unusual in this day and age. However, there are advantages. They can have more downforce, bigger front tires. And meanwhile, back to racing, and Bernd Schneider gets a good restart and suddenly pulls out a huge lead.
Look at the backdrop, Derek. This is a
teammates.
beautiful facility. Even though you don't like it as well as the other one, what a beautiful part of the world.
Wonderful. Mountains all around. Austria, probably one of the finest.
You like it here?
One of my favorite countries in Europe, particularly in the summertime when you drive from the airport at Strasbourg over the mountains to the Österreich ring. So wonderful, wonderful country, wonderful racetrack.
Well, there's one of the factory-back Porsche 911s. Once again, we have documented how expensive these cars are. Ooh, a problem here on another Porsche. A flat right front.
This could be important now for this GT2 championship battle, because Eichmann coming in with a badly blown tire, their second puncture of the weekend, losing their class third place. The Lotus car again, the GBF Lotus car. Man, they are always in trouble. Not good.
Well, Eichmann finally gets away, Derek, after changing the right front.
Meanwhile, Pierre-Henri Raffinel comes up to lap the private Lotus of Kurt Tim. We saw Kurt Tim in the Mercedes-Benz last year, so Raffinel goes down the inside of Tim and Sandy Grau. You see it here from the inside of the McLaren. Again, look at that gear shifter. It is backwards compared to normal sequential gearboxes. Sopra and Ravaglia watch the TV monitor.
Joie is off.
Retiring the second of the factory Lotus cars. Not a good day for the Anglo Judge team here. Meanwhile, Raffanel is closing in.
Yeah, that's Bob Wallach.
On Bob Wallach. Meanwhile, Raffanel is closing in.
Yeah, that's Bob Wallach.
On Bob Wallach in the factory car. Raffanel doing well in the Gulf car. This team was just destroyed on the first lap of the last round in Spa. First corner. Goonan, of course, initiated the accident. He was been removed from this weekend, replaced by Jeff Lees, as we said earlier on. You see, he's trying to run down Bob Wallach. Bob Wallach, of course, has many sports car races under his belt on this track when it was known and run as the Österreich ring. He does not like this new layout. He said it is too slow.
And Derek, most drivers realistically would echo those sentiments. This just is not compared to the track of old.
That is right. Now, after the 1 hour mark, the McLaren number 9 is in trouble. This is the Peter Cox Ravaglia car, pushed off the track by one of the GT2 Porsches, the number 65 Risciatelli. We can show you a replay of what happened there, buried in the gravel track. The number 2 Porsche, our number 65 Porsche, turns in on Peter Cox, hits him a whack. Had no idea he was coming down.
That would cause you to
inside.
flunk out of driver's school, Derek, a maneuver like that.
And Peter Cox buries the Schnitzer car down into the gravel trap. Here it is on board from Peter Cox. He is clearly past the 911. Bang! He gets a good old wallop. Says to himself, what on earth were you thinking of?
You have to know what's coming up behind you in these races. When you're running in the GT2 class, you have to know there are faster cars. And with this yellow in that segment of the racetrack, a lot of pit stops. And these are scheduled, planned, routine pit stops for a driver change.
So the Schneider-Wirtz car comes in. Schneider gets out. Alexander Wirtz get in.
Of course, he was a winner at Le Mans just a year ago.
Pushes him in. Tightens him up in the seat belt. Working on the Peter Cox car that got him out of the gravel trap, got him back into the pit lane. Meanwhile, JJ Leto comes in for his stop.
Now, is they going to change drivers? Where's Steve Soper?
Decides not to change tires
Leto
either.
stays in the cockpit.
So Peter Cox's car is pushed away. Peter Cox not a happy man because he was clearly in the right on the racing line when he was inadvertently dumped into the gravel trap by the GT2 car.
I mean, as you well know, I got a 30-second penalty in Spa for hitting GT2 cars, and so I wanted to take it really easy today. And even with passing the cars, you know, I stayed on the inside, didn't move over too quickly. That's what I complained, so I stayed on the inside. And for me, you know, I come onto this Porsche, and he puts the indicator to the left. So the pit lane is on the right, so there's no misunderstanding. He sees me, puts the indicator on the left, so I think he lets me go by. And suddenly he turns in really hard and he hits me on the left rear wheel. And I don't know, I cannot judge, but people say he turned in so hard that it was almost like it was on purpose that he turned in so hard. So I don't know. I just tried to do my best, and now I have this problem again, so it doesn't work too well for us at the moment.
And what damage is there actually to the cubs? It looked okay.
Well, I also thought it was okay. There was only the stones, but it was obviously that the suspension broke because he hit it so hard.
And there's Andrew Gilbert-Scott's Golf McLaren going very... Oh, we've got another problem, Derek. There's the Team Lotus on fire, the MVR Team Lotus.
A second fire for Team Lotus. And remember, these are carbon fiber cars. When you get a fuel fire, which this looks like, no, it looks like an oil fire. When the fuel pumps continue to feed the fire, you have a huge inferno.
Well, the race order after the first round of pit stops on lap 45, Schneider, Wirtz actually in the car now. Ludwig, Klaus Ludwig and Bernd Maylander in second. Nannini and Thiemann in third. And Leto and Raffanel going very well.
And on board now with Alexander Wirtz. What a team for a young man like this to become part of. The experience he gets with sophisticated racing cars like these that Mercedes builds. This is where Dario Franchitti learned his trade, driving a sedan car for Mercedes-Benz. Now Alexander Wirtz is the next man in.
And of course, you mentioned Franchitti. He's now in America racing in the kart series.
Again, under the guidance of Mercedes-Benz. And this man here, Wirtz, being groomed by Mercedes-Benz, perhaps may drive a McLaren one day, may drive a Benetton
another
next
car
year.
in trouble, Derek, excuse me, the Gilbert-Scott car. So your old buddy Jeff Lees never got a chance to drive his shift here this afternoon, so he'll have to watch the rest of the carryings on from the pit lane as we take this break and come back to the A1 ring in Austria. Welcome back to Speed Vision's coverage of round 6 of the FIA GT Championship. Gary Lee alongside Derek Daly.
And have a look at this here. The Gulf McLaren, one of the front-running cars not too long ago, now about to be lapped by our leading driver, Alexander Wirth. That is Pierre-Henri Raffinel, and you can see that the Mercedes has much more power.
But a slower GT2 car up in front has to tuck back in behind him. Great in-car camera action.
Braking zone. Uphill right-hander. Tremendous elevation changes here. This is back on the old racetrack right here. Old racetrack resurfaced. It plunges downhill to a left-hander. This is all exactly the same as the old racetrack. None of this has changed. This is the old Bosch curve.
Just with new pavement.
New pavement. Now the changes come here. This is where the old Texaco curves were. It turns left. That's the old part of the racetrack on the left-hand side. Now they have shortened up the run, given enough room to put a gravel trap in there. Still double left-handers. Then it goes back onto the old racetrack.
Mauro Baldi, a little bump steer there.
Our love tap as the Pirelli tire engineers measure the temperature of the racetrack. Meanwhile, Steve Soper ready to do battle. JJ
Here
Leto
are the
brings
guys
it in.
that are leading the point standings right now, Leto and Soper.
And it will be a tough fight for these boys to maintain their stranglehold on this championship because of Mercedes-Benz. Meanwhile, Leto still in charge.
How's that going against the Mercedes there? You're right up in among them, the Mercedes.
Tough fight. They are too quick, you know. I mean, it's just they have a little edge on us, you know, and we are just trying to sort of have a little tactic with the tires at the moment, so we are triple stinting them, you know. So hopefully we get some advantage out of it, because the tires seem to be very good. They're constant all the time, and there's no problems with the wear, so we just have to keep on going now.
Are you going to do the 2-hour stint now, Steve, to the end?
Probably. We don't know yet. We will see how the Steve is doing. Hopefully he's pushing hard, and hopefully he's comfortable with the tires I left for him, you know.
Well, there is a look, Derek, at Steve Soper. They hope to maintain the points lead, but right now they have their work cut out for them because it's been all Mercedes here this afternoon.
Yeah, playing a game with the tires, he said. However, the Panos cars, meanwhile, driven by James Weaver as one of their drivers. James Weaver is part of the development program here.
Yeah, the engine's running very hot, so over 100 degrees, and it gets so hot in the car that you sweat so much that your earplugs float out of your ears, and the car's shatteringly noisy. And after about 40 minutes, I just can't stand it. You just got to get out because of the noise.
Well, that's not a good racing car, because we just heard JJ Leto say they can do triple stints, and yet James Weaver gets out shattered after 40 minutes. Unless they make that car driver friendly, I don't see that winning any races.
As we watch the Viper make a pit stop, I talked to Weaver at Road Atlanta. He drives, of course, the Panos in America, and he said it is hot, it's smelly, and it's noisy, but it still wins races.
Well, it may be fast, but it won't win many races if the drivers can't stay on top of their game, both physically and mentally, in the racing car.
Franz Conrad slowing down in one of the 911 Porsches. He's motioning the cars behind him that he intends to slow down.
The leading car, of course, the Mercedes-Benz. He doesn't want to get in the way of that silver Mercedes. Have a look at this here. De Bourbon all over the place. Alfonso de Bourbon all the way into the gravel trap, drags half the gravel trap back out onto the racetrack. Meanwhile, the
turn signal.
Look at this here. What is he doing? He almost clouted somebody there in the second of the in the Conrad GT2 car here. That looked very, very risky.
Back
Helmut
on
Rees.
board with Helmut Rees. You can see how dirty the windshield gets.
He's just been in the pits. He
gears.
put new tires on this car before, of course, he got lapped by that Porsche. There's the Viper, now slips through.
Why do we have turn signals on?
That's the Chamberlain Viper. They use these indicators, as they call them in Europe, our turn signals, as an international racing driver signal that says, I recognize you're there, go ahead and pass me. However, when they leave it in forget it, switch it off, it becomes confusing.
We just heard him talking to his...
This Viper in front of me. Next couple of laps.
Wow, look at that. There's the Mercedes. By on the left-hand side quite easily. Slices down to the right-hand side on the inside to go past the Viper. So meanwhile, Alexander Wurz and Bernd Schneider dominate here, and it almost looks easy for them.
Welcome back on board with Helmut Rees, right behind one of the Dodge Vipers.
Still
bumper tag.
Trying to make the pass, and obviously the Viper has forgot to turn his left side indicator off, so Rees now goes down the inside. This is the last corner. Jumps
Not
up
a, one of the Vipers, that's Capelli off in the sand trap.
Did he hit him a whack? Did he hit him a wallop? That's the Chamberlain car now.
Hey, this is unexpected, Derek. A problem with the Schneider car, Alexander Wurz. And Bernd Schneider had been leading an unscheduled pit stop.
The alternator has broken on that Mercedes-Benz, so Bernd Schneider is being taken out of the leading car that is going to be in the pits for an extended period of time. Schneider is now going to be put in with Klaus Ludwig to try and maintain his championship advantage here. So Schneider's gives up his leading car. It sits in the pits. It will be continued to be driven by Alexander Wurz when they fix the alternator. But meanwhile, a glitch in the armor here for Mercedes-Benz, and maybe an opportunity for J.J. Leto and Steve Soper.
So now the plan is, as you indicated, to put Bernd Schneider, team him with Klaus Ludwig in one of the other Mercedes. So let's go down and check now with Bernd Schneider.
When I took the car over from Alexander, there was straight away the light was flashing for the generator was broken, and after a couple of laps the battery went flat, and I have to come in to change batteries. And now I hope that he can finish, or we can finish the race with this 2 batteries.
Are you going to go out again, or is Alex going to the finish?
I'm not quite sure what we're going to do, but maybe I jumped on another car because now Klaus Ludwig is leading, and I have to do some points, and if that car is still lead in the end, maybe I jump on that one.
So going points chasing for the finish.
That's right.
So obviously, Derek, the team management is thinking in terms of Byrne and the championship, as opposed to putting Alex Wurz in the leading car for a home country victory.
Well, that would be an emotional decision, which is not the right one. A business decision says, how can we get Schneider as many championship points as possible? And there's how you do it. Number 1 is Ludwig and Maylander. Put Schneider in there and let them try and chase the victory.
So once again, the leaders coming into this event, and perhaps the leaders coming out of this event, would be Steve Soper and J.J. Leto, but the Mercedes charge is on. So right now, Klaus Ludwig, the German, on top of the leaderboard, and when he makes that next pit stop, Bernd Schneider, you heard him say he would likely go into that car.
And that was a good look at our favorite speed shot. The camera mounted down inside the curve that these cars run right over the top of. And there's the view, looking back on the straight. Wonderful scenery here. Norbert Haug continues to ponder the decision. In fact, it's already made. We know he's going to go in to that leading car. That's the only thing they can do.
Thomas Becher off course, Derek.
He owns the car. This is the second car he bought this year because they destroyed him at the Le Mans 24-hour race when John Nielsen was driving. Went on fire, got completely destroyed. So Thomas Becher, who was one of the gentleman racers who has done so well and progressed so much since he got under the guiding hand of John Nielsen. Meanwhile, the Viper, driven by Olivia Beretta, continues to trundle on.
And Becher back in the pits. The engineers looking all over that car, and apparently his day is done. That off-track was enough to park that race car.
And this is the Rook racing car, the team that has put Claudio Hurtgen and Bruno Eichmann across to the number 57 car, since their original 56 is too badly delayed to get them any points. So a driver change here also. I'm not sure this driver moving trick is very good for the championship. You can't do that in America anymore, but you can still do it in Europe. Remember, they are in a GT2 battle with the Vipers.
Yeah, they had been leading the point standings, still a couple of races back, and dropped to second. So you're right, they cannot do this driver swapping in America, but over here it's perfectly legal as your lead car going by one of the slower GT2s.
In fact, this is the delayed car of Alexander Wurz now, trying to make up some time from that lengthy pit stop to repair the alternator. This is the Marcos. Marcos now in the pit lane also. Marcos, another one of these front-engined cars that the drivers find difficult to drive. Smelly, hot, noisy. And Schneider gets in. Here's the championship contender now, being put into the Ludwig Bernd Maylander car to see, does he like this one? Brings his own seat. This car was in the lead when they brought it in. This is JJ Lehto's car now with Steve Soper. Soper's still in the car. They had to come in and get a wheel tightened. A wheel came loose during Steve Soper's stint, so he elected to come in and make a safety pit stop. As we get a good look at the number 57 GT2.
There's the Rook Porsche.
911.
Again, Eichmann and Hurtgen, as we just alluded to, swapping cars, going from one team car to the other for the purpose of gaining championship points. Another of the Vipers leading in GT2 for the final pit stop and driver change.
Philippe Gache and Olivier Beretta teamed together in this car. This is the French-run Oreca team that is running these Dodge Vipers. Meanwhile, one of the big names for many years in sports car racing is Dieter Quester. He's also here this weekend. Let's hear from him.
Car is very good now. I mean, the only problem was that we have to change brake pads, but everything else is very fine. A little bit of sauna, but I think for the next race they will have a cooling system. You need it really.
But here's a curiosity, Derek. That looks like Mauro Baldi in the Marlboro car. He wants to make a pit stop, and the crew is saying, we don't want you in here. Keep on going. So out he goes again.
Not ready. Not ready, which is not a good situation for him. Meanwhile, the lead car, always distinguished by the female form that's on the hood and the right front fender, now has Bernd Schneider in the car. And he looks good immediately, right on the pace in a strange car, but these cars are so evenly set up that he is at home with this car and begins to set lap times that are faster than the regular drivers. Don't go away.
Well, the Rook GT2 waving the number 5 Panos pass, obviously concentrating on a class second place and picking up the points for second place here this afternoon. So they obviously have given up any hope at winning this thing, and they'll take what points they can for second place and focus on the championship. Oh, wait a minute, Derek, here is your leader in GT2, an unscheduled pit stop.
Philippe Gache and Olivier Beretta have led this class, and now they are making an unscheduled pit stop. And they are in trouble. They cannot fire the engine.
Well, we just talked about that Rook Porsche accepting second place, and the points that go along for second, they may well win this thing here this afternoon. There they are. They have now assumed the lead with the Viper in the pit lane.
So again, bad luck for the Dodge Vipers. The number 51 car, Beretta and Philippe Gache, now lose the lead of the GT2 category when they were safe and sound with that lead, and the Rook 911 GT2 car really was not in contention. Didn't have the speed, and then these boys got themselves in trouble.
So in the late stages of this timed event, looks like that GT2 Porsche will take the victory, but there is your leader right there overall, the Mercedes.
Bernd Schneider now takes advantage of the flexible rules here in the FIA GT Championship. Well, not flexible, but not as tight a rule as we have here in America. You see Schneider goes left, goes right, Whoa, Cor Oyster is in trouble.
But Marcos in trouble. Another fire. How many fires have we seen here today, Derek?
I don't know, but Cor Oyster and Harold Becker are teamed in that car. They will go no further.
And there's the Works Porsche being lapped for the first time by Steve Soper, who had to keep the pressure up throughout his driving stint. There are only 13 minutes to go now to the end of this 4-hour timed event.
Alexander Wurz and Olofsson are still at it also. That's Olofsson in the Golf McLaren right ahead. Alexander Wurz did such a good job here. This car led earlier. Not anymore. Had over a 3-minute stop in the pit. You can hear the sequential gear changing as he runs down Anders Olofsson from Sweden.
Tiemann was slow there. He is teaming with Nannini, and that car was in second place.
And apparently they have gearbox troubles. Gearbox troubles again play havoc. Nannini has had many a gearbox problem. I wonder, is it because of the difficulty he has getting his hand that was almost severed in a helicopter accident around the gear lever? Well, they're in trouble again.
You know, with one Mercedes having a gearbox problem, could it happen to the lead Mercedes? Oftentimes that will happen in motorsports.
Well, now we've had 2 out of 3 Mercedes cars get themselves in trouble. Schneider is back in the strong one, and the championship chase is beginning to go his way.
Well, Steve Soper, the third-place car in the pits, the waning moments of this 4-hour timed event, and the attrition rate has been incredible here this afternoon, maybe partly due to the heat.
I don't know, but Steve Soper's car does have damage on the windscreen, so he's obviously hit something fairly strong. Looks like a bullet hole, but they do some repair work and tell him to get back out in the fray again. This championship is a long, hard grind, and if you don't win, get as many points as you can.
Tiemann is back out, teaming with Nannini. So that car stopped on the course and then limped back to the pit lane. There's Klaus Ludwig looking on.
Of course, he will get credited with the win also, despite the fact that now they have 3 front-running drivers in this car. But Bernd Schneider, the man that they're trying to take care of for this championship, now on the last lap, he jumps into another car, continues to lead, sets fastest lap of the race, and he has dominated no matter what car he was in, and they take the checkered flag again. Mercedes-Benz dominance.
Well, the Mercedes and the BMWs have been very strong, but a marque that has struggled all season is the Porsche 911 GT1 with Steve Soper and JJ Lehto celebrating. Bob Wallach finishes 6th.
Cannot be satisfied when we were 6th. The car went okay and the team did a fantastic job as usual. We're just not fast enough, and we know where the problem is, but we will fix it, but it will take time.
Were you surprised to find yourselves running with the JB Marlboro car earlier on? That was going very quickly.
Well, it depends on the strategy. I mean, we knew that we were marginal what brake pads are concerned, and going faster early on full tanks meant that we would have to change pads, which we didn't want to, and we didn't actually. So the Marlboro car went fast, but where is he now?
Well, the Dams car did well. Jean-Paul Drio was their team manager.
Yeah, it's on both ways, because we had a lot of problems with the engine to start the season. Now it's becoming quite much better, and also as we are just beginners in this championship, to be 2 laps and 4 laps behind in front of the opposition, it's also quite satisfactory.
The beautiful backdrop of the Austrian Alps as we take a look now at the final finish from the A1 ring in the GT1 division. There's Ludwig, Maylander, and of course Bernd Schneider taking over that car. Nannini and Tiemann, even with the mechanical problem late, did take second. Lehto and Soper third, and Schneider and Wurz in the 4th position. So JJ Lehto and Steve Soper maintain the points lead by 10 over Bernd Schneider. Another 10 back is Klaus Ludwig, and then it's Cox, Ravaglia, and Raffinel.
Team standings, BMW Motorsports still on top, but the AMG Mercedes car, if I was in this championship, that's where I would want to be. AG Porsche in 4th, and not looking strong at all.
Take a look there at the GT2 results. Just when we thought that Porsche 911 would finish second to the Viper had a late pit stop and reversed the standings, so the Porsche wins it. The Viper was second. Now Eichmann and Hurtgen back up on top of the standings. Justin Bell there is third as you take a look at the driver standings in the GT2 class. And now the Viper team on top by 21 markers over the Rook Racing Porsche.
We've seen the Marcus struggle many times. They are fourth in the championship, way behind. Essentially, this is a two-team effort.
And now we're off to Japan at Suzuka. That is a long way away and a long, demanding race. So we hope that you'll join us for the Speed Vision coverage of the next round, the 1997 FIA GT World Championship coming up from Japan. There's Claudia as she goes for the GT2 Championship. Some final thoughts this afternoon, Derek.
I think if I wanted to win the Drivers' Championship in GT1, you have to be with a team of the size, magnitude, experience, and engineering know-how of Mercedes-Benz, because that's what will lead Bernd Schneider, I believe, to this championship and give people like J.J. Leto and Steve Soper all sorts of headaches. The Mercedes steamroller is in high gear. Watch out, McLaren, BMW.
Mercedes 1 and 2, BMW taking third, but again, Soper and his teammate J.J. Leto are still on top of the point standings as you take a look at the victorious Mercedes-Benz, driven the last stint by Bernd Schneider. So our congratulations to Bernd and Klaus and Bernd Maylander as they take the victory here in Austria. So for Derek Daly, I'm Gary Lee. Thanks for joining us. So long from the A1 ring.